hello, and welcome to Firesign Chats with Angel. I want to welcome to the show a man that I spent many hours of my impressionable youth with. We shared stages, gear, time, energy, beers, frosty beers, and sounds. Lots of noise. Um,
Yeah.
some of you may know him as Joe Phillips, the husband and father, a family man, if you will. But myself and many of his fans, we know you as Joe Mushugana, guitarist and founding member of the Mushuganas and also the Repos, which I want to find out more about. So, anyway, welcome to my fireside chat. Hope everything is cozy where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a big I mean I'm flattered and honored that you were happy to do this. So thank you.
Yeah.
It's been good to just catch up with you.
Yeah. I mean, because especially when, anytime I've ever seen you, it's usually in a loud club or, just like too many people kind of swarming us. So this is a good chance to like get you where it's quiet and we can have a chat. So yeah, so we go back a while, and I'm going to start with the question I always ask everybody is what are your memories of us meeting or of me?
Uh okay, so I feel like we met before this, but what I really remember is us playing together at the Charleston, right? Vindictives,
Yes.
the Beach.
Yes.
Uh, and I just was like, this guy is such a hard hitting drummer.
Okay.
That was the thing that I'll always like. I don't know if you broke a snare head that night, but I know I've seen it more than once.
Oh
So
yeah.
was
I
that the first time, or did we meet before that?
No,
Or,
we so what I remember, well, before we even met, I don't know if you remember this, but I was dating a young lady by the name of Roach, if you
that's
remember.
right. I was thinking about that earlier, and I was like, was it that girl Roach? Because I know like Todd, he's like, this guy Angel, he's in a band, and okay, yeah. So Roach, yes, yes, that's right. And she was going to NIU, I think,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
So and yeah, and she was, we'd write letters together and she was telling me all about you guys. It's like, oh yeah, there's this band. They're from Sycamore. I think that's where you guys were originally.
Yeah. So Todd is from Sycamore. I'm from DeKalb, but they're like little,
Right. And yeah, I mean, and so she and I think she sent me a tape of like the your first demo tape.
yeah. I might have known her before we even started the band, just like that she was, you know, I grew up in DeKalb. It's a little town for people who don't know. It's like 60 miles from Chicago, um, but it's a college town, so it's a little different from another suburb or small town. So you kind of get this transient flow of different groups of people coming in and out.
Right.
College, you know.
Right.
So whenever you see someone who looks kind of cool or whatever, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
it could be anything from like Chuck Taylor to a t-shirt, leather
Yeah.
jacket, or whatever. She
And
was
you
definitely like a looking person.
so so and the other thing about that was when I saw the tape, I noticed that I got thanked on the on the um on the cassette. I'm like, I don't even know these guys, but they're thanking me. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I like. I feel like your first release. It's like the thank you. It's so critical. Like, I mean, at that time it was just like a huge thing. Now I don't even think about. If I made a record tomorrow, I probably wouldn't have one. You know,
yeah.
but at the time it was like this huge thing, and even for me, like buying records, I would read the thank you like, oh, check out, little note to self, like check out this band that's on the thank you list or whatever. So,
So I guess that goes into like, and I definitely want to talk about the times we shared or played together, but like, where does your musical journey start?
um, so like I said, I grew up in DeKalb, which is like a little nothing town, nothing going on. I didn't have any brothers or sisters.
Oh,
Um, So I spent a lot of time alone.
Yeah.
um, so what I did have, and I do not come from a musical family at all. Like, there was no musical instruments in our house or anything like that. But
Music playing
my
or anything, or like,
but there was music. My dad as a teenager, you know, really into rock and roll in the '60s.
okay.
Um, and he shared that with me, like all of his like very dog-eared, partied on records from the '60s, like the Kinks, the Beatles, the Who, the Rolling Stones, the Count Five, the Music Machine. That's
Okay.
what he really liked. It's almost like, I don't know, when did Cream come out?
Like
7.
67, 60, yeah, 67.
Like that's where the music stopped for him. I feel like he doesn't, like doesn't know Black Sabbath, like doesn't know any music from the '70s. Like after like Cream was like the most contemporary thing.
Okay.
So I just played those records all the time, and like that was my everything. Like I had a little Fisher Price record player, and just played these records over and over again. Um, and uh, like then the next thing, it's like, well, I want to play guitar. I mean, when I say that's all I did, I mean I had no interest or concept of sport or like,
Yeah.
and still really don't. But like, yeah, really music. It was like it made me kind of weird, probably, but
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean,
So yeah, the next thing is like, to play music. Um, so probably when I was like 8 or 9, maybe I got a very crude acoustic guitar for Christmas, I think. Like most people at that time, in the early mid 1980s, like the student level instruments were not very high quality. So it was a challenge. It all, you almost like give up on it.
mm,
Also, the like, you're kind of limited as to how you're going to learn how to play. So, you go in the yellow pages and look up guitar instruction, and there's like one guy that does it. This guy was a really great guitar player, but not at all like where I was uh, interested in going.
is he
He
more of a
like
shred? Yeah, was he more like a shredder and you're just wanted to get the basic kind of, or
no, not at all. Like he Chet Atkins was like, I mean, I guess that is like shredding, in a way.
Yeah.
um, but not, like he had no concept of. I would have welcomed someone into heavy metal, I think, but
Mm.
he's
Right.
not really the guy like. But no, he was like into country music, and he just went through the Mel Bay guitar method of like, okay, the first thing you learn is like how to hold the pick, and you anchor your pinky on the pick guard and do that for a week. And then it's like picking, you just up and down picking. And then it's like, then you start to play songs. They're like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I feel like I did this for years, and I just learned a couple chords. And then, I think fast forward, I'm like in, you know, I don't know, sixth, seventh, eighth grade or something. The guy's like, I think you probably need to go somewhere else. There's a younger guy teaching, and it took me. So he sends me to this other guy, and this is the first time I learned a power chord.
Mm.
Like, which is like the rudimentary thing that most like self-taught guitar players learn, because it's just 2 fingers and you move it up and down the neck, and you can pretty much play any rock song. So it's like, okay, I know what I need to know now. After a few lessons that this guy gave me, like, I remember he's like, why don't you bring in some songs? So I brought in like Six Pack by Black Flag.
Go man, ask which one I like better. Six, I hope the answer won't upset her. Six, I was born with a bottle in my mouth. Six, now I got a six and I'll never run out. Six, I know it'll be okay. When I get a six pack in me, that's right. Hey!
Oh, nice.
It's like, he looked at me like I was from another planet, and like that song was like 10 years old or something at the time. It wasn't like this new thing, but to him it was like, what tempo is this? Well, I'm not sure what time signature, and I'm like, I don't, not really. I'm not concerned with that. Like, I would just like to know how to play like this. So,
Right. And was that like how did punk rock how did you find out about punk?
so probably. So there's a couple different things. So, like I said, I didn't have any brothers or sisters. Um, so there wasn't like an older person to be like, hey, check
You
this
have the
out.
cool
But
older brother or uncle, yeah, or
right,
sister.
I did have a couple of cousins, these girls that would babysit me, and I remember like when I was very very young, listening to the first Dead Kennedys album,
Mhm.
and I loved, like, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
Oh,
it
yes.
comes with this giant like newspaper size cut and paste like lyric sheet poster, and I don't know what you call it.
That's the great Winston Smith who designed that
Right. And
sheets.
just like like laying on the floor on the carpet and just staring at it and listening to this like crazy music. Um, and then that didn't go anywhere. I didn't like, hey mom, I want the Dead Kennedys record. Uh, like sometime in there in the early '80s, like I remember I bought Prince Charming by Adam and Eve, whatever year that was. I think it was like for Christmas I bought that and Tattoo You by the Rolling Stones. And then, sometime in the mid 1980s, probably when skateboarding was popular, started reading like Thrasher magazine. You know, punk rock has some coverage in there. Start just like hearing dubbed cassettes from people, and it's like, yeah, this is like the next thing for me, because I didn't really, like, other than Adam and the Ants and some other little things here and there, like there wasn't a lot of like, contemporary popular music
Yeah.
that I was listening to. I mean, I was listening to like old records.
Hmm.
So and even then, like, when I discovered punk rock, I guess, like, you're kind of like start at the beginning, and then, or you start in the middle somewhere, and then you go back a little and
Yeah.
discover things from 5 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. Yeah, that was like, once that was established, it was like, okay, now I'm ready to go. Like, this is the thing for me, and um, you know, yeah, we
And
were
it's
we
funny
were
you mentioned Thrasher, which another friend of mine, we were talking about that, how that was like a very important, place to get any
yeah,
information. Well, I wasn't much of a skater, but my brother was. But I would
yeah,
always go, and check out the like the pus head notes or the I forgot what the so
yeah. I mean, I am extremely unathletic in every way. So skateboarding is never good.
why
But, like, uh, oh, okay, this is cool though. It's like, it's different. It's not like, not football or whatever.
yeah
Although it did turn into a, kind of like popular thing. But yeah, like, their coverage of stuff like that for me was amazing. And not just that, like the whole aesthetic of like Puffhead, and the
yeah
way, like it was newsprint, like it was just like, yeah, it was so cool, and you could get it at just about any newsstand. Just
yeah
like, um, So the other thing is live music in DeKalb. It was happening on a very like small scale because of the university.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't know if it was like 100% sponsored by the university, but some of it was, and they would have like every Chicago punk band played out in DeKalb.
Yeah.
Make it Ray Gun, Big Black, and I mean, Big Black, but and like $5 or whatever. It
Yeah.
was very low risk
Exactly.
investment. So and really like to this day, those are the only kind of like shows I've ever gone to. Like I never went to big like rock concerts or anything. Just because I guess it wasn't an option that much for me living so far from everything.
Sure.
Uh, and then once I got kind of into punk rock, then it's like I had no real desire to see a
Sure. Who
big
needs it? Yeah. Yeah. You don't need
go see the Rolling Stones or Guns N' Roses or whatever. So
right.
yeah, and I think we all have like grown from punk rock to other. It's like if you're a fan of music and punk rock is kind of like your gateway into other kinds of music. You take that and move it whatever direction. So now I like all kinds of different things. Like country music is something that I always hated. It was almost like I don't know. It was just this polarizing thing because I don't know. I don't want to get into it, but
What
when
country?
I yeah, when I was young, but even that is something that I've grown to really love. You
Yeah.
know, I couldn't tell you a lot of current stuff, but
Yeah.
um, I enjoy a ton of country music. Same with jazz. Like jazz is something that I never understood. But it's like I like everything but jazz and country. But now I have come to appreciate um, everything. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And you were saying so. What was like the first punk show that you went to? What was the?
I think the first one was in DeKalb, the Foliant, which would would have been Chucky Cheetah. He was
Mhm.
in No Empathy. That was
Sure.
like
Yeah.
his. I don't know if it was his first band, but that was his earlier band before he was in No Empathy. They were incredible, like surf kind of punk, like really wild, and like his guitar playing was so like insane. Pedals are a thing now where people have all these pedal boards, but you know, he used these kind of wild pedals at the time that gave like crazy delayed echo sounds and stuff. It was them, a band called Friends of Betty,
Oh
and
yes.
I think like Red Meat, I think something
Yeah.
like
I
that.
think believe Tim
Yeah,
Ritchie was in and friend of Betty. And of course, they were on the great Underdog record label.
yeah. I did not like them at all. I thought they were terrible. Um, but it's like I didn't have a very sophisticated palate at the
Sure.
time. Probably I was like 11 or whatever. I don't know how old.
Well,
Um,
I just recently because I was hanging out with Jack Easer,
yeah,
of course he has like if you've been to his place, he's got an archive of every media you can imagine. And he had a Friends of Betty tape, and listening
yeah.
to it now as as an older guy, it's like, whoa, this is really adventurous
I
and
bet. Yeah, I bet it's really good. But at the time, I didn't get
sure.
it. I was like, I think they were drunk. Just to get. I was like, I didn't get that either.
Wow.
But yeah, like they were not well received. I think overall, they were like in the middle, sandwiched between
Okay.
Napoleon and then the opening band, Flea Circus.
Oh, Fleecer. Oh, yeah, you had like the Chicago triple threat
Yeah,
there.
they were incredible. I thought they were so good. Like they just did, funny things. Like they had like a Van Halen banner behind them when they played. I just thought that was like so like wow, how did you think of that? Like just genius. And the singer like was funny between songs. Like that's the kind of stuff that I was like, that's the kind of thing I want to do. When I start a band, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do funny between songs. Yeah, like I couldn't totally describe what they sounded like.
Yeah.
It's like they're fast, but I thought they were awesome. They were so good. And then like I remember talking to Chuck, like I'm sure he wouldn't remember, but like, hey, like he's at the bar or whatever, and I'm like, this is great. It's like I talked to the guy in the band. Can you believe it? Like, it's so cool. So yeah, and then after that, it's like any show that played in DeKalb, I didn't care. I had to lie to my parents, but like my parents were very like my mother was kind of overbearing. They raised me like a veal, like fried to. Anytime there was a band playing, it was like there's a dance.
Right.
I'm going to, so I go to the dance. Well, technically, people are dancing.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, I don't want to see these concerts, It's like, yeah, it is like adult there. You know what I mean? To be fair, like, I don't know how, I have 2 teenage daughters. Like, I don't know how I'd feel about just like dropping them off with these scumbags, like a lot of them were,
No,
like, so it wasn't like, it was people from my school, you know what I mean? It was like me and a 1 or 2 people from my school, and then like college kids and adults, people in high school.
yeah. Well, my parents were a little bit more kind of, they definitely, my mom definitely put me on a curfew. Like she was one of those 10
Oh,
p.m. moms.
yeah, yeah,
However, shows were like, it was almost like, I got a pass as far as, showing up because, they thankfully my mom didn't really know any better. My dad was super, he's a rocker, so he was always like taking us to shows, until we could drive. So I got lucky.
yeah, yeah. Once I got into high school, it eased up, and then I was in a band in high school, like, and we were playing all the time. We're going to record, and then ultimately we went on tour like right after my senior year of high school.
Okay.
So like
And this was the Mushuganas, or was this?
Yeah,
So yeah,
the
so
Mushuganas.
so yeah, let's. So obviously you got your taste of punk rock, and you were like, well, how long between that first show to when you started playing or finding people to play with?
So okay, that was probably around 1990 or 1989, that Napoleon show. And then I think when the Mushuganas started, I was 15 or 16. I think it was around 1993. Um, I had kind of like played around, a little, and not really real bands, but you know, just a lot of goofing around. Even when we were kids, like we would have cardboard boxes and like, my little tiny guitar amp make noise. But this was the first time where it's like, okay, this is gonna be a band with a song, like we're trying to write songs, play shows, and, that kind of stuff. So the original drummer, guy Ebro, who was a guy from my neighborhood, he went on to do a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Bronson and lots of like using bands now. He played drums, and then Craig, he played guitar. I was gonna sing originally,
Mm.
and Craig was play guitar, and then Todd. I was just talking to my wife about Todd last night.
Yeah, the great Todd Helmer. So it was like
So Todd was in a band that I saw when I was real young called Breaking Point, and they were like a hardcore band that I thought was just so great. Again, like the singer was like charismatic, and this guy Mike Holmes who just passed away. And He went in the Air Force, I think. So they broke up, and um, when I was so I put the band together, and I'm like, I want the guy from Breaking Point to play bass, and I got his phone number. I probably looked it up in the phone book, called him. Hey, you don't know me, but yeah, I saw your band. I'm starting a new band, and he was just like, why do you? He was like, why would you want me to be in your band, kind of? And I'm like, well, you were in this like great legendary band to me. So obviously, I'm like, we'll have this guy. He'll know what to do.
Yeah.
He'll kind of like show us what that was not how it went at all. But like he didn't even have a bass.
That could be a problem.
Didn't have a bass. I don't know if he had an amp the whole time we played together. Like I trying to think what we did. Like some of the like I have so much equipment now, and I think back to like the junk we would use. Like we never had anything. We never had a PA or anything to sing through. But whatever. So we kind of get things going. We're writing some songs or playing covers or whatever, and my parents' basement, and I went upstairs for something, and Craig was like playing guitar and singing like a Ramones song. And I was like, oh fuck, like would I sing? Like you obviously are a bazillion times better than I could ever be. So okay, I will play guitar. You'll sing.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, just did that normal thing, I guess, that bands do. You write songs, get a little bit better. We were still like learning our instruments kind of the whole time as we went. Like I was not a great guitar player. Right. Craig and I were probably about, we probably at about the same level maybe.
Hmm.
Ebro, not a great drummer, but we kind of like worked around our deficiencies, and did the best we could. It's one of those things where like you don't really know enough to be like, okay, we're gonna start a band, and sounds like this, and this kind of thing. You just did it the best you could. Like it was like there was no way we were gonna go. All right, well, we're gonna sound like I'm just gonna name two arbitrary bands. We're gonna sound like Sludgeworth mixed with Trenchmouth. Like it wasn't gonna. I mean, it's just like it ain't gonna happen. Like 'cause you don't know how to write a song, and you barely know how to play it.
I mean, you can aim for it. I always
So
believe in aiming for some kind of greatness, even if it sounds like complete garbage.
yeah, right, totally, and it did a lot of the time, but that's okay. People liked it. I mean, I look back on it and it's like, that's kind of not very good. But then I'm like, you were like a child, so give it a rest. Yeah, take it easy. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Todd at some point, um, uh, around the time that first tour, I left Cal. I left home, and we Todd wasn't going to move, so we got different bass player, and we got a different drummer at one point. So Ebro, great guy. Like I said, guy from my neighborhood, and he would be like the guy I went to shows with. So naturally, like he'd be the guy I would start a band. It was just kind of like, oh, you'll play drums, I'll play guitar. It wasn't like he was a trained drummer or anything. But one of the things is his parents would go on vacation this summer. Mine didn't. He never went on. But his did. They would go on like very long vacations, and it happened that like our first ever show, like 2 shows actually, he was going to be on vacation with his parents. So I played drums.
Oh,
the first couple shows, and like that wasn't the last time that I would play drums. Like we played the Fireside, like the first. It wasn't the first because I think I don't know. There's like disputed, like Russ Forster I know is doing stuff at the Fireside, but it was like among the first shows at the Fireside. And I played drums at that show too. I forget why he couldn't do it. And then that night that we played together that first time with the PCY, he didn't show up to the show.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
He says that, and I'm sure it's true, but I know the Pride Parade was going on, right? Part.
Yeah.
So traffic was a little mad, I'm sure. So he says, and he was not old enough to drive. So he says that his parents couldn't get through traffic, couldn't get to the show, and I'm like, really? Couldn't just get out of the car and run across the street or something, like whatever. So yeah, he didn't play. I didn't play drums that night. Brian from Oblivion. We played 2 sets, right?
So yeah, you're talking about the was it the oh my God, the crawl space gig that was booked by Dave. I'm talking about.
Dave.
Oh yes, Dave Eves. It was a Dave Eves production, and yeah, we did 2 sets. It was also our graduation. We had just graduated.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was still in high school. I think another year.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we're gonna be playing soon. I think. Where are you? Let me get on my cell phone. Oh wait,
no. Wait.
So you're just like, oh, okay, I don't know. So ask Brian from Oblivion, can you play our song? He's like, I don't know. Maybe I asked you. I don't remember. But Brian did it like pretty okay. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Like for I'm sure maybe he didn't be paying attention to us when we played it. I don't know.
Right.
It's not like we had a catalog of records. We had like 1 7-inch out or something.
Yeah.
So and then it's like, oh, we're gonna play a second show. Okay, maybe he'll be here for that. He didn't show up for that.
Oh.
So so Ryan, the guy that eventually became our drummer, he was in this band called Wine Press.
Yes.
At the time. Like, do you want to play the second set? And he did, and he like nailed it. I was like, wow, this guy is like a real drummer. He can just like he like ended songs on the right, everything. So it's like, all right, let's get this guy. So he ended up playing drums for us. That was it. Like after that, and everyone was like, yeah, I don't like this band. Basically, I think so. He was like on other things. Like
so that night at the Crossbase, we witnessed 2 completely different drummers, 2 different sets. It's fun. It's weird because
we probably only knew 10 songs or whatever.
Yeah. And also, I came on stage with you guys for both sets singing G.G. Allen.
Yeah. That was another thing. Like, now if I started a band, it'd be like, oh, let's learn some covers. Maybe that'd be easy, right? Yeah. Then, I couldn't learn a cover to save my life. Like, I could not. I'm still not great, to sit down with the guitar and learn a song. But then, I like it would put a gun to my head. I would die if I had to do that for some reason. But Craig could do it. So those two songs, those two G.G. Allen songs, are so simple for all of us.
Yeah.
The drums and the guitar, and the bass, but the bass and guitar is the same. So that's why we covered those.
Oh.
Not because we were like huge G.G. Allen fans, but it's like these are easy to play. You know, and they're not like super done. It's like a Ramones song. It's like, okay, even then, it's kind of like that's cool, but you know, you could do it. You could be a little bit more like,
Yeah. And it kind of fits with that snotty attitude as well, because it's so like, you know, I mean, so I know you've been checking out some of the episodes on their channel, which please hit like and subscribe.
oh, I know where you're going with this, the bloody mess one, right?
Yeah. So
But yeah,
yeah. So there's some interesting stories about him, and you know they were buddies. So
yeah. I mean, I remember that guy, like,
yeah,
you know, reading Maximum Rock and Roll and like his letters, you know, to
yeah,
Maximum Rock and Roll about G.G. Allen and the connection and everything. And I remember thinking like, whoa, this guy's crazy, and he lives not that far. It's in Peoria, you know, like it's not that far. That's nuts.
right.
And then I finally heard, like, I was like, this must be the most extreme music ever made. And I finally heard it, and it was like, oh, it's not that extreme, I guess, you know, like it's kind of, you know, like whatever. I don't know. I was expecting this, just like, even G.G. Allen, like, you know, that like those songs we covered, you know, they're pretty, you know, they're not lame, but they're not, you know, it's not, you know, what you think when you think of G.G. Allen, obviously,
Right.
you know.
No, they're good rock and roll. And I was
Yeah.
so
Yeah, but yeah, those that the bloody mess interview is definitely in my queue. I gotta catch up.
trying to remember where we're going. Oh yeah, we're kind of getting into GG. So we played. I played twice with you, and then of course there was a few shows that I'm kind of like see if you can remember any of these, but we had played at this. So you had a rhythm section lineup change, and of
Mm-hmm.
course Kenny Sanders was on bass,
Mm-hmm.
and we played, and I can't remember it was like some space somewhere in Elmhurst.
Uh-huh.
But yeah,
Her house,
I'm sorry.
was it a basement?
I think so. Like that's where I'm a little fuzzy.
It could have been her house.
Okay.
She had a house and she was doing shows in the basement. It was small, you know.
Yeah.
It almost had like a little stage, I think.
That's right.
Maybe
Yes.
I'm wrong. No, yeah. Now this is the Hee Hee Wives or
So this
Views
was
Verse?
it was Hee Hee Wives.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then I think the next day, so we played the show, which I have barely any memory of us playing other than we were there and we were hanging out. I think it was like,
Yeah.
and then we did like the next day we played at Joey Vindictive's birthday. In the
Okay.
basement.
Oh, right. In his like basement,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Or in the basement of that free flat or whatever.
Yeah.
Or wherever it was. I was just talking to my wife about that. I was
Okay.
like, well, this is what I go, you know, before that, you know, like we were talking about pizza. Never thought to put Italian beef and giardano on it before I went to Joey's birthday. And it like opened up a whole new world for me. I feel like, wow, that's a thing. And then now it's like, yeah, that's like I thought it was a thing he invented. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh,
yeah, it's like on the menu of every pizza place. I just send like very pedestrian order, like pepperoni or sausage. So,
you want to make
yeah,
this Italian beef really tasty? Put some giardiniera on there. It's
But to put it on the pizza, like to put the Italian beef and giardano on. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you weren't playing with the Vindictives at that time, right?
No,
They
so
had.
but yeah, that show, do you remember anything? I kind of have a clear memory of just being really sweaty.
I think I had started drinking by that point. I never drank. So I think even still, like some of my sober memories are very hazy just because it's so long ago. I think.
Sure.
And there was other things going on that I blocked out. But I mean, I can picture it in my mind. But as far as like being real memorable, I don't remember a ton about it. I feel like the Vindictives played a very long time.
Well,
But like that's like the biggest memory. I
and
think I don't know. I feel like we didn't play very well. I'm like, well,
yeah,
kind of blew that one, but whatever.
I mean,
One of
I definitely don't remember feeling sad. I don't, yeah, I definitely didn't think I had a good show either. I just,
Yeah, and I'm like, why would you have us play by all the bands? Like, we kind of suck, but okay, you know.
Joey's kind of like was the patron of of just
He
like,
was very, yeah, like that's so. I love that. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that is the best. And that's what you should do. You know what I mean? It's like if you have some kind of whatever platform, it's like get the young guys. You know what I mean? Like help the young bands out who aren't very good. Like don't get guys with Marshall stack. Like really know what they're doing.
almost like
But
boot
yeah.
camp.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it was fun. I thought that was so cool that he like let us into his world. Because I was a big fan of the Vindictives. I thought they were a great band, and they really weren't playing live. At like that time we played with them at the Crawl Space might be the last time they played live. I mean, did you guys play any live shows? Probably not, right?
Well, so when I was in the Vindictives, never, and
Right.
which I to this day, it bums me out that we never, you know,
That record you played on is so good. Like I
uh,
just I honestly at the time I did not listen. I didn't buy it. I was kind of like on to other things or what for whatever reason. Like I didn't buy it at the time. I never heard it. And then the podcast with uh, John Jughead. I listened
mhm.
to that and it's play and I was like, this is insane. I have to hear and then I finally listened to it and I listened to it so like into over and over again. I'm like, I remember painting my daughter's room, her bedroom, having that thing just on repeat. It's so great. Like everything about it. That's so
It
good.
warms my heart. Thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely put a lot of work in that record, and there was definitely. I will say, and like yeah, no, the podcast was great to kind of get my at least you know talk about having somebody actually
Yeah.
be like, hey, like you're on this thing because and yeah, I just remember like yeah, we worked really hard. We practiced for like I want to say like almost a month, like set like 5 days a week, just like I was
Yeah, I bet.
getting on the red line train all the way to Rosemont from Rogers Park,
Yeah, Jesus.
and then fucking
Oh,
Johnny Personality picking me up, or either Johnny or Billy would pick me up, and then we'd go to the practice studio, which was now yeah, I think there was a Journey tribute band that was like a few, so we'd hear them practice while we were trying to.
oh, you didn't practice at his house? You guys had like a rehearsal studio somewhere?
Yeah, at that point they had like a monthly room, in
Yeah.
Bentonville,
Okay. Yeah.
middle of
Yeah. That was so, you know, really good. Like, you know, yeah,
I
awesome.
mean,
So,
well, thank you. I mean, by the time that record was done, I was already out of or I quit the band. So it was,
really?
yeah,
Oh,
that could be for, yeah, I'm putting it out there. Anybody who wants to get the real scoop.
let's hear it now. Like,
I mean, we can talk, yeah, if you're, I mean, so So we did. So yeah. So the Vindictives lineup that we played with um,
So that
was
was you, Joe,
yeah.
Johnny Personality, and then was Mike Burns? Did he play? Oh no,
He
yeah,
was
he was
not there.
playing at one
Yeah.
point. I guess.
Yeah. So when we played with him at Joey's basement, it was Mike Byrne, the drummer that I can't think of who was playing, and then yeah, Johnny, Billy, and Joey. Um, and so Joey hit me up like around, I don't want to say like late 97, because Viewerverse was pretty much starting to like come to an end. That was like a 2 year run. And then uh Joey kind of, and we'd be in touch a lot over the years, just like, I'd have to kind of block off 3 or 4 hours because
Mm-hmm.
have you ever had those conversations with Joey?
Not 3 or 4 hours, but definitely like in an enjoyable way, like
Sure, yeah, yeah.
store or on the phone or whatever.
And
But
make
yeah,
sure my wireless phone or cordless phone was charged up.
right, right.
So, and he just kind of hit me up. He's like, "Hey, I'm interested in, I wonder if you're interested in playing with us. Just started a new band called Grand Mall." So and
Mhm.
that's with his wife Jenny.
This is before the album.
Yeah.
This
So,
is before you into the Vindictives, right? Okay, right, okay.
right, right. So it started off as like, he was doing this other band, not the Vindictives. And it was kind of like if you remember what were they called? The Flim Flams. That
Yes,
record,
right.
love that
Mm-hmm.
record. That's like one of
Yeah,
my, and so it was kind of in that same, but a little bit more, I don't know, definitely like Funhouse era Stooges and just, almost like, yeah, like mid-tempo hard rock that was, very fucked up sounding. I wish I saw
yeah.
it. So, and I think a couple of the songs might have ended up on Hypnopunko, but I'm not sure. And so we did that for a couple months. I show up, for practice, and Jenny's not there. And she's like, Joey's like, Jenny's not gonna, doesn't want to do this thing anymore with us or whatever. So I'm like, okay. It's like, but I want to start the Vindictives again. And we're like, oh, word, okay. And so
Yeah.
and so he's like, I want to do this record, and I want it to be like Punk Floyd, is what he kept on, you know.
Wild.
He's like, punk rock is dead. I remember that specifically. Like, punk rock is dead. I want to do something grand and like punk rock. Like, but so, and I was on board because at that point I'm like, you know what? I'm down with just like, you know,
Yeah.
shaking. That's because yeah, I mean, pop punk was really getting at least,
Is this around when? 1998 or something? I'm trying to
yeah,
think here.
97, 98.
Okay, yeah.
So we're like, yes. So we started to work on these songs, I think for like 5 months, where we were just once a week getting together. And then Joey wanted to record all this at Sonic Iguana, or at least get the basic tracks, which have you, yeah, that
Yeah,
studio.
we recorded there, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Ooh. Was that on, who's paying for that?
Honestly, at the time, um, it was very affordable for us.
Hmm.
The first couple, I'll just a little interlude in your story quickly. So we recorded there uh 3 or 4 times, I think. Um, and the first few were very economical because we did not have money.
Yeah.
Our first recording session, I went in the Illinois Entertainer. I found the cheapest recording studio I could find, and I think it was $25 an hour. And to me, that was like, and I'm like, well, we have 3 songs. They're 2 minutes long. We should be in and out of there in an hour or two, right? Long, you know. So, anyways, it was not very expensive because Mass's rates were like a sliding scale. Okay,
Yeah.
so if he liked you, I guess, or he thought you deserved a break, he gave you a break, and that he gave us a major break at that time. But I'll say our album, the one with the blue skull on it,
Hmm.
uh, we booked to record there, and Mass was not available to engineer it. He had another guy um, engineer it, like the house engineer or whatever. And he did not give us a break, and charged us an arm and a leg, and even charged us like rental fees for equipment.
Oh,
Like, because our gear was crappy, you know what I mean? Like, even at that point, we were around for a couple years, few years or whatever, but we still had like junky amps, like Craig was still playing his like PV Bandit or whatever. But it's not, for us, it was fine, It's like I think back, like seeing Screeching Weasel playing these little tiny practice amps practically on stage, and it sounds great. So he's like, oh, Mass's brother's got his Marshall Plexi if you want to play through that instead. And Craig's kind of like, I don't really care less, you know what I mean?
right.
So, but he did. So he did that, and then at the end, it's like, oh, and I billed you for it by the hour. Yeah. So, anyways, I know you guys didn't record there though, right? You recorded at Flatiron or something, right?
No, we did it. We drove out to Lafayette to.
You did go Sonic One. Okay. So,
Yeah.
anyway, back to your story.
And so yeah, so months of practicing, and then of course we had it was like a month of just like 5 days a week just getting it down because we're definitely. I mean, what we didn't pay for, I think it was Joey and Jenny who like they mortgaged their house, or it's just all they put because we ended up spending a week there.
Yeah.
And we stayed in their the apartment upstairs, and that was the first time. And I remember and I tell it in the podcast interview, but Mass was like, or Joey was like, oh, here's some CDs for you to check out, or play them for Mass so he can, because this is the kind of sound I want. Like I remember Harvey Danger was one disc that he was like that's the kind of sound I want to go for, and a few other
Yeah.
forget, and then Joey's like, well, whatever you do, don't let Mass put on the Green Day Dookie record.
That's funny.
So so we get there. Yeah, we drove like it was like what 3 hours, and of course was blown away by how like it was like the most professional studio I've been in.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this is like on another level. This is like probably what Abbey Road looks like, or any kind of like high end studio. And so I'm meeting Mass, and he's a really cool professional guy to work with, and all of a sudden he's like, we're giving him the disc to check out. He's like, oh, I was thinking like, and he pulls out the fucking Dookie CD.
That's awesome.
I don't know what we did, but it was, and it was a probably the most like work I put into, in anything like, just, and it's, I guess it was kind of a taste of being able to like, spend some time with these songs, you're not getting rushed out. I think we had like 7 days booked at Sonic. Wow. So we had, but my shit was done like I think I was done in like 2 days. So 2 or 3.
Would he get drum track and then go do everything separate over that?
Yeah, so I had to lay down the drums. Johnny was playing the bass, and then Billy was playing rhythm. And so once that was kind of cut, then Johnny would do all the overdubs, like a lot of guitar solos and stuff. And
yeah, there's tons of overdubs. Seems like, I mean, in a good way, not like you're not talented to play it. That's so cool.
Yeah, and of course, yeah. I mean, I've in the podcast episode, yeah, it's like because I mean, by that time I was already gone, but it just and the fact it was all done on ADAT.
It was really?
Yes.
It wasn't on tape?
Nope.
Oh, that's surprising.
Yeah. So you had ADAT, and then I guess to save money, they Mass kind of set up a little home studio for Joey to do his vocals and then any other overdubs as well. So
yeah, like we did everything on tape, 2-inch or whatever. That the big one. But we didn't have any money, so we rented those tapes. And he probably didn't charge us for that. So we just tape over them. We did that for every single one of our recordings.
Yeah.
So, oh well, gone forever.
So,
Didn't
so
like at the time. It's like, you know, how much was a reel of tape? $150. It was like, whoa, you know what I mean? I would buy a car for that or whatever. You know, like that's an insane amount of money for me.
yeah.
So, we can rent it for 35 or whatever. Yes, let's do that. Looking back, I'm like, I'd love to be able to remix that stuff, but
Yeah. That's, I mean, well, obviously, I don't know how you feel about AI, but I know that's kind of the thing where you can demix that shit. And
oh yeah, you can like take stuff out, kind of. Yeah.
so
Anyway, sorry.
no, that's cool. No, so after we finished tracking and we went back home, actually Johnny, I think, stayed behind to finish up because he was still wasn't done. And then yeah, months went by, we didn't really do any playing, and then the return of Dr. Bob. He got invited back into the fold. Um,
Oh,
and this is where it gets really funky because at that point, Joey's like, "Oh, I'm working on a deal with I think it was Fat Mike's label at the time." So I'm getting excited. I'm like, "Ooh, like this could be." And he, it, you know, silly me. I was just thinking, "Oh, like this is gonna be, this is gonna blow up." And I was a huge fan of the Vindictives, so I'm like, "Of course, this is gonna be great." And then I guess Fat Mike apparently got freaked out by some of the lyrics that Joey was singing,
really? I
talking
didn't.
about wanting to flatten people with frying pans. I think there was a song that, didn't make the cut, but
Hmm.
so that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I'm like, Fat Mike got freaked out by Joey's. I mean, in hindsight, if you listen to those lyrics now, and kind of know the struggles that Joey's gone through, it's like
Yeah.
it's I could see where that comes at, but at the time I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And
I mean, knowing the like fart joke toilet humor of no effect, like, I can't imagine anything Joey Vindictive comes up with would be offensive.
right, I mean, he's definitely said a few offensive things over the years, but
Yeah.
but yeah, so that kind of and then we were trying to move on to the next thing, and I don't know, I was just yeah, I think it is important to play live, and I think deep down I was like, man, like this is great, like as like the studio project, like but nothing like sharing this with the world. And there was plenty of people who were like, man, when are you guys gonna play? I'm like, soon. I think it was like, yeah. So you know how it goes. It's like, and
Yeah, and the Vindictives were such a good band, and the songs are so known. You can even go play not that great, and honestly, and people would love it because it's like you're hearing this. It's like you go see a band and you know the songs, you're singing along, you're happy. You're not like, oh, they weren't very good. It's like, no, they played the song that I like, and that's
yeah, actually,
yeah, that's missed
yeah,
opportunity. I feel like, but
yeah. And I guess Riot Fest has always asked the Vindictives to get back together, and Joey constantly says no. So
I like that.
yeah,
I like that he said no to them, but I'd love to see them. Like, that'd be great. I mean, people would kill to see them,
yeah,
you know. But
yeah. What can you do? Well, it,
like when we would go on tour, I know people would be like, "Oh, the Vindictives." I'm like, they're not gonna go on tour. I guarantee. Like they probably won't play Chicago again. But
I mean, yeah,
so
I mean, if those Vindictive shows, they didn't really venture too far west
yeah.
out to anything. So
And now, like, I mean, you don't even have to go on tour. Like, we'll get to the repos at some point, but like, we're not even really a big band at all, and like we've been flown to many shows, like all over the country.
yeah,
I'm sure the Vindictives could easily get gigs like that, flying gigs where you just like go to wherever, Denver or something, fly in, play the show, fly out the next day. You know, you don't have to sit in a van or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that sitting in a van isn't fun, or sleeping in a van, like I'm sure you did.
I did, and I jerked off in the van too. So, I mean, come on, who hasn't?
So, so let's fast forward
Yeah.
to
Thank you for
19.
letting me talk about the Vindictives. I feel like a little
Well,
bit of back. Or,
I think that's great. I yeah, like like I was so happy to hear, you know, you were in the Vindictives, like
yeah.
Angel. You're such a good drummer, you know. It's like that's awesome. So yeah, like around 1995, 1996 maybe, I moved to St. Louis. I don't know if you remember this.
Hmm.
We
Big.
were playing in reverse, and you guys played in St. Louis.
Yes.
You remember that?
That was with the first time that we played in St. Louis, or
You were like a new band, I think, like
okay.
a pretty new band. Um,
That was at the
and
what was it? What was that street that it was on? Like the
Ar-
what's that?
Arsenal.
Arsenal. Yes, the Arsenal House.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
see,
after the show, we were all upstairs. Um, there were four guys in the band.
yes.
Four guys in the band. Three of the guys were upstairs, and then the fourth guy came upstairs and dressed everyone else down. Basically, someone has to sleep in the van.
So you're talking about okay. I'm guessing that was 97.
Okay, maybe. I don't know if I was still living in St. Louis. I'm not good with years, really, but it's possible. Yeah.
The certain
Um,
member dressed us down, I believe, and it was the last day of the tour too.
I thought it was the first day of the tour where it was like, hey, this is what we're going to be having to do from now on. But that makes more sense that it was the last day, and you guys are like, fuck
Yeah.
that. I'm having fun.
Yes. No,
Uh,
I do remember the first time we played, and of course we played with the Great Volatiles, or like
yeah, right. Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
yeah, that was had to be what 96, I think was yes.
yeah.
So
Maybe. Yeah.
I
I was gonna live.
I can remember these dates a little bit. It's kind of weird, like I can't remember my when my phone bill is due, but I can remember
There, right.
the year. But yeah, so that was yeah. I have pictures of that too, and so
Really.
yeah, and so we were there. I do remember getting really stoned on hash.
Yeah, yeah. We were all pretty fucked up. I think. I
Yeah,
know I was.
you know,
Um,
yeah,
but I
like
remember it happening.
what's that?
I said, but I do remember that happening. It was sobering.
Oh, yeah, and if
Uh,
I remember correctly, it was well, long story short, we accidentally forgot this band member who it was one of those things where we're walking upstairs. I remember it was like this, wooden staircase to get up, and it was dark, and it sounded like I was, there was enough people around us, so and we got in. I
yeah,
just opened a beer or two, I think, and it was like, finally like decompressing after it's the end of the tour. We're having fun. I love these guys from St. Louis, like all the, it's like our people. And then all of a sudden, our bandmate comes up and he's like, you, and just, I hope you're enjoying the beer that I just bought you. And fuck you, you left me behind. I was like trying to I was trying to find you guys and I'm peeping. I remember he said peeping through window.
ah,
Oh my.
oh my god, that was fun. Yeah,
And
like
so, yeah. And of course, yeah. And I think this person ended up sleeping in the van. He was so up, or he ended up going somewhere. He ended up sleeping somewhere, and then I think I stayed up with our bass player, and yeah, we stayed up till about 4 in the morning, like polishing a case of Black Label and kind of like processing what the fuck just happened. It was like,
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Oh my
you know,
God. Oh,
but
yeah.
all's
So that,
forgiven. Everything is like,
I'm sure.
yeah.
I'm sure.
I think when it came down to it, I was like, yeah, we were just exhausted. But yeah, so you were in St. Louis, and were you just uh you weren't going to school at that point, right? Or you were just
Nope. I was dating a girl, living in Chicago, dating a girl who was from St. Louis. And she's like, I'm gonna move back to St. Louis. You want to come? And I'm like, yeah. The band was kind of like fizzling out a little bit, I think. And this was like kind of a dick move on my part, and I kind of like didn't tell anyone until the last minute, like I'm moving month
uh,
or whatever. So we played one of our many final shows
yes.
at that time. And then I really didn't do much of anything musically while I was there. I like messed around a little bit, a couple guys, but nothing like didn't record anything for sure.
Mm.
So that was okay. But I listened to a lot of music, and I like started kind of like expanding, my horizon, so to speak. There was just like so many cool used record stores in St. Louis. Like every Saturday, it seems like every Saturday, but I in reality probably couldn't afford to do this. I would just like get stoned, get in the car, drive around, go to the record stores, dig through the, used bins and, find new stuff, some stuff that was great, some stuff that wasn't great, but, started moving away from punk rock a little bit into some other stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was fun. It was like a nice little break kind of because like it was a grind really. Like at that time we played a ton,
Yeah.
it seemed like we were playing every weekend, you know. But it's fun, don't get me wrong, but like we had a very long stretch where we never rehearsed, like maybe a year or something like that because we played live so much. We net like when Ryan was our drummer, we rehearsed, that whole stretch only a few times, probably because we played so much.
Yeah.
We didn't have. We lived in an apartment. We had no place to rehearse, so we just didn't. Played shows like tons of shows.
But obviously that
So
starts to kind of get, I can imagine that starts to get, stagnant where you're just like not able to.
yeah, you're just playing the same song. Like you're not really writing any new songs either. Just playing the same stuff over and over again. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was nice to get back but then came back, and I think at that time me and Greg tried to start a new band, but then just ended up getting the Mushuganas back together.
Which
Kind of.
I think that was when I started seeing you. Because, yeah, there was a couple years when I didn't really see you. And then,
That's probably when I was in St. Louis. Yeah.
yeah. And then you come back and it was like, holy shit, this is like I think you used to call it your 60s British rock star look.
Yeah, totally. When I lived in St. Louis, I don't know how I landed this job. It's like the coolest job ever. I got a job at a vintage clothing warehouse. So literally, like they would get like 800-pound bales of vintage clothing, and I would sort through and pick out the good stuff, whatever. It's like, okay, here's a bale of sweaters, vintage sweaters. So you sort the acrylic. I got to know how to feel an acrylic sweater or a wool sweater or a
Mhm.
cotton sweater with my fingers. I mean, that's just moving from vintage. So I got this like started like I acquired this like awesome wardrobe. Like I
Yeah.
found all these cool old clothes. And I was like, oh wow. I lost some weight, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
We
okay.
we were all losing
So
weight.
yeah, but when you're young like that, it's like you're still kind of growing, or you know, like all of your hormones and everything are still kind of, you know, working.
Yeah, no, yeah. So no, yeah. So you guys were, yeah, great wardrobe, and then looking thin, 20s thin, and yeah, and I
Oh,
think that's yeah. God,
oh no. The other thing is when I lived in St. Louis, like when I lived here at that time, you know, like I told you, I never drank or did anything when I was young in high school. And then when I left home when I was 17, I just went for it. I just really drank excessively, you know,
hmm.
from that, couple years or whatever, and put on a ton of weight. And then when I moved to St. Louis, it was just like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just didn't drink too much. So I lost all that weight I put on from drinking. So I smoked a lot of pot when I lived
Hmm.
there. You know, smoked pot. I did, and you know,
I am stoned. I am stoned.
So go with it.
What are you saying? Go with it. That is, get away from me. You told me to go with it. You almost botched up the entire operation. You lose my best dog. 2 guys piss on my leg. I'm on the verge of a total pig out, and you tell me to go with it? I'll go with it.
Go with it. Go with it.
yeah, you know, that time, like, you know, the music we made at the time, it seemed really good to me. But you know, looking back, I'm like, you know, I'm not that crazy about it. Um, I think there was like probably more there, but you know, like I hear you talk about how hard you guys worked with the Vindictives. Like we didn't work that hard. We never did. You know, we like didn't rehearse as much as we probably should have. Like I never played guitar at home or anything. You know what I mean? Like
Well, you guys always
I
looked
don't
like
know.
well, here's the thing that I, as an observer, and obviously, I think I feel like I've seen your progression. Like one thing, like you guys make it so look easy, like as far as playing
Yeah,
music and
yeah.
just owning the stage. I think that's something that like I really, got me excited when I'd see you guys. In fact, I think yeah, when I went to see you guys at the Fireside, where I think that was the one where Craig had a like some kind of like blood bag with like
Yeah.
and like blood was trickling, like fake blood was trickling down. That was such a good night. I mean, I will say like the majority of the Mushuganas shows, even like the one that we did in that garage somewhere in Illinois with V Reverse. I think that's what
Yeah. Oh yeah. What was that? I remember that too. Did we play together? I mean, I remember going to see you, but
we played together. I think. Well, yeah, I think you came to see us.
we all played. Yeah. Yeah. I loved seeing V Reverse. You guys were a really good
Thank
band.
you.
But yeah, you know, um, early on, I felt like I, I had to do something to like make it more entertaining.
Yeah.
So, because we weren't all, you know, I don't know, like I don't want to degrade any of the other guys because they're great, but we were all kind of learning. You know, I mean, we were not. You know, now I'm an adult. I know how to play guitar. I can go fucking do whatever. You know, but at the time, I didn't. You know, it was like that was the best we could do. I felt like so, but yeah, yeah. We were. So it was like it went from like not really knowing how to play and like kind of working around that to like that kind of later period where we were like really stretching our abilities. I feel like maybe a little bit outside of what we were able to do. Maybe I don't it's one of those things like you go back and you listen to it, done this or done this, it's like done it. I don't know.
I mean, that Trek Anytime is still one. I still have that. The 7 inch of that is one of my favorites. Like you were definitely trying to stretch it. I was almost like Yardbirds with Jimmy Page.
Yeah,
You
that
could,
was like we would rehearse that and make it go on and on and on.
yeah,
Forever. That was a different kind of thing, that was fun. But then moving, when that finally died out, like we've been doing this band for so long, we broke up so many times, and it's like I remember one of the last shows we played, it was like nobody was there, you're kind of like, what are you doing, So then moved, started doing the repos, and that was like, I'm gonna do this. That really is something where I go back and listen to it, and I'm like, yeah, this is exactly how I want it to sound. This is like a success to me, even though it's totally different. I'm really happy.
yeah.
And we didn't spend a ton of time on that either, but I don't know, maybe being older and you've kind of experienced what it's like to, not do things the way you want. Go about it a little bit different, but yeah, I can go back and listen to those records and not blush, not be embarrassed, That's one thing I learned is like, don't say you're breaking. Stop. You know what I mean? And like, you don't have to make it this big event. Like, because then when you're like, I don't want to do this again, and it's like, I paid to see your last fucking show. Don't come back now and be like, oh, just kidding. Don't say again.
Pulling a kiss
right.
And I appreciate that we got to play that Geezer Senior got to play with you guys on one of many last shows, but I think it might have been the last, the Quench.
Yeah, that might have been the last one. I know it's Craig that he doesn't want to do it anymore. I would do it if somebody really want, and we get offers, but I don't think we want. And that's fine. I get it. So this is the next thing, Angel, and then I will probably have to cut it short. But
I know. Yeah, I could talk for a while with you as well, but yeah, that's
we could totally like pick it back up if you want, because there's a ton of stuff that I want to ask you. But so within the last couple years, like my desire to play guitar has diminished completely. I focused all of my creative energy into playing drums, and I've begun to take drums very seriously. So I wanted to talk to you about drums.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a few quick, because I know they got stuff up there waiting for me. I want to ask you a couple of fast drum questions, but I'd love to pick it back up and we can talk about anything we missed, and then I can bug you about drums.
Okay.
So did you ever take drum lessons?
No. Never.
Okay. Can you read the music, the notation at all?
No. I can't read music.
Okay. So I can, all right, and I haven't been playing for a very short time. It's not hard at all, and I think in some ways it leads to my next thing. So have you ever taught anyone to play drums, or have you ever considered it?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Actually, I did one lesson with Steve Sackett, 8-Bark Geezer.
I don't know him, but I saw 8-Bark as a young child.
Yeah, same here. And his former wife Victoria had asked me to do drum lessons with her, and we only did one. And then I've done one for my girlfriend Athena, so that's two.
Well, I I think you should learn drum notation. The music. It's not hard.
Well, I would love
I
to.
think you should consider teaching. Like you're such a good drummer.
Okay.
We can get
I've thought.
something. Because this is my long-term goal. All right, I'll retire in about 20 years. I'll be a full-time musician.
Mm,
Okay, and I'll play some little gigs and I'll teach drums. Okay, I figure 20 years I'll be good enough by then. To get my little social security check, and then I'll supplement it with teaching kids buzz rolls. Okay.
I
So
know I am game. So, and I want to know how to read drum notation because
it's not hard at all. It's like the snare, that's one note. High tom, that's one. That's lower tom. The bass tom, that's one. The hi hat. Those are all just different notes on the staff.
yeah.
And then
Oh,
it's just left, right. Quarter notes. I mean, quarter note, eighth notes, right? It's like, I mean, you play them, you might not know necessarily
yeah, I
what.
might not know the exact term,
Right.
but I've probably done it.
Yeah.
I am
So,
okay.
I mean, it's something I think, that, you have everything to, be a fluent, instructor probably, except that. And even that you probably don't need, but it could be helpful. I don't know. It has been helpful for me to learn,
Okay.
to be honest, to like kind of like break it down. And I don't know. We could talk about more of that later.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about you have a very hard hitting style that I
Mm.
recall. And I thought maybe he's toned that down. But then I saw a video of you. I'm not sure what it was from. It looked like it was in a recording studio, and you just like just slamming them down. I was like, okay, that has not changed at all. He still has a very hard hitting.
I mean,
So
I definitely learned how to play with dynamics and
that's
serving.
why like, do you feel that there's like diminishing returns? Like you hit a snare only so hard, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like I can get the same with this as I can with this, or you only can get it with this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
And then
yeah. I was gonna say,
yeah,
I think the way
so
I think when you first heard me playing, as and I was playing really loud. I think a lot of it was I had the shittiest drum set in the world, so I'm like trying to get as much like sound out of that thing. So it's like
totally,
necessity.
yeah.
But
So and also with that, like, have you had any kind of like physical issues you feel like from like hard hitting, like your wrist or right? I don't know, like
um, I've learned how to play, without blowing my wrist out, and like it's almost like it's kind of it's I guess how jazz players will play, where it's like it's like not much effort. I mean, I'm
yeah,
still a workout, but I'm not like you know, going over the top. I do occasionally get like the little bit of tendonitis or whatever, or tendonitis on my fingers, but then I haven't had a flare up in a very long time, so knock
cool,
on.
cool.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I've definitely learned a lot as far as just as a drummer over the years, how to
yeah,
get that certain result without having to, like without being too flashy about it, I guess.
and like I don't want this to seem like, oh, that's a bad thing. I think the way I would see you play was so great, like sound wise and the look of it and everything about it was great, So I don't want it to be like, oh, you're bashing away, or you know what I mean. It's like it's a positive thing. So, but and then all right, this is the last thing because I gotta see.
Yeah.
Um, so what was your like first piece of like good gear? Like I assume you probably said it was like very junky, like probably drums, but what was the first, like really nice cymbal or really nice snare drum or the first thing that was like, whoa, this is like,
Oh, well, as far as like the first set of symbols I got, and don't laugh, it was, well, you can laugh. It was 2021. Like actually
oh, year 2021.
in the year 2021, like I actually bought my own symbols. Like I've had symbols, like you've either got them used or just, it's like I guess kind of like the Mushugana story of like gathering gear. Like
Yeah,
I'm just like,
it was ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
you know, borrowing amps.
And I kind of had like a hodgepodge set, but then those got stolen out of a practice room. So like,
Oh,
so I didn't have cymbals for a while. Um, and then I did get a really nice snare from one of my exes, like which I still play. It's like a Simon Phillips Ludwig snare, or no, or is it Tama? I forget. But like I don't really fuss about like details, like drum details, but or at least gear.
yeah,
But like yeah, it was during we were getting all those stimulus checks.
yeah,
So, I got a few things. I got a set of cymbals from Guitar Center for like $300.
yeah,
And you're
yeah,
like, because, for the longest time, I'm like, I know some drummers, like for me, I was struggling to try to find a drum sound that was like,
yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
it's taken me, I mean, I'm still trying to hone it down, but I think the cymbals right now are like on point. So I'm happy.
Nice. I mean, you always had a good sound to me. You're probably one of those guys like, they say John Bonham, he's gonna sound good playing his cases, right? Like it doesn't matter what you
Yeah.
put in front of him, it's gonna sound like John
All right.
Bonham. You always sounded really good,
Oh, yeah.
which is not, like getting a good drum sound is not easy, like it's difficult live and in the studio.
Yeah.
So,
It's a black art. It's definitely like, I mean,
you're right. Yeah, it's not a science; it's art for sure. Okay. Yeah, I do have to run.
let you go.
Um, okay. Well, thank you so much. It was great catching up with you. I look forward to doing this again. I want to talk. I want to pick your brain about drum stuff more.
And I think the next time we meet, I'm going to start just doing some researching on drum notation and how to read that. And
I'll give you a book. There's a couple of books, beginner books that shows you, the different notes and stuff. I don't know. For you, it would confuse it, or maybe it would be easy. It's hard for me to say, but it helped me to understand, like, you know what you're playing and to learn how to play certain things, like, because I can see it on paper and I can count it, you know, one and two and whatever, and then you can play it slowly until you can play it properly fast or whatever, you know. So, but I don't know.
I'm
But
very
it's something that it's like you've been doing it so long, you're so skilled. It's like a natural thing, I would think, for you to be able to teach it. We don't have to put this in this podcast.
oh, all right, Lisa.
Um,
Well, I already have the idea
you,
of
I don't.
yeah, of teaching and being in a cover band. I think that's kind of like
Right, you know what I mean? It's like, it's fun, you're old, you could be old, 60s or whatever, right?
well,
What you gonna do,
I mean, the youth need to learn about rock, so hopefully, yeah, let's put that out there.
Yeah.
All right,
Or
Joe.
just like music, not even rock. I don't even care. Like, I want to share music with kids, like,
Yeah, I just want kids to
right?
learn to get into because I think that's what's really needed. I'll get a little
Yeah.
ranty and I'll let you go, but I just seeing, because my girlfriend, she teaches, so I get a little bit of perspective on the youth, and there's like not a lot of music, or at least like not
No.
the way that we were into it as growing up, like, and that's a bummer because I think
Yeah.
I think without playing, you can just say like if it wasn't for punk rock, dot dot dot, like or if it wasn't for
Yeah.
being in a band with with friends and like just even if we sucked, it's like we're just we're doing something a little more productive and
Yeah, I mean, my kids have no access to live music.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like, what does it cost to go see a concert now? Even at little nothing. You know what I mean? It's like $100 or something to buy a ticket or something.
sure.
It's insane. There's no little. I'm like, aren't there just like guys in a band at your school? Like nothing like
No. Anyway.
that. Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you, Angel. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Have a good one. Thank you. We'll talk.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey.